We are gonna try to do this video as quickly as possible because my camera is gonna die and nobody really wants that. And this is the greatest start to a reading vlog, being stressed and trying to do it quickly. But anyways, I am really excited to be starting this reading vlog because this is the Buzzword-A-Thon, which is a readathon I've always wanted to participate in. It's hosted by everyone's favorite, and I'm part of everyone, of course, everyone's favorite, Books and Lala. And the Buzzword-A-Thon is basically a readathon where you pick a buzzword. Well, you don't pick a buzzword, the hosts pick a buzzword, and then you read books that have that word in it. So this round is the buzzword you. This is the third round, I believe. I've never been able to participate before, but I'm so excited because I can finally participate. I have the time and I have books with you in the title, which is exciting. I have 5 books on my TBR that I'd like to read this week. We're hoping I can get to all of them. I plan on reading Because You Love to Hate Me, 13 Tales of Villainy, edited by Amory. This is the booktuber book collaboration anthology about villains. If I read 2 stories per day, I should finish this by the end of the readathon. Another one I'm hoping to do like that is Good Morning, Good Night, Little Pep Talks from Me to You by Lin-Manuel Miranda, illustrated by Johnny Sun. If I read 30 pages of this a night, I'll finish it by the end of the readathon. And I have 3 books that I want to finish, read, whatever, in the week. One is nonfiction. It's called So You've Been Publicly Shamed, and this is a nonfiction book about cancel culture and public shaming on the internet. Then I also want to read History Is All You've Left Me by Adam Silvera. This book is for some reason so hard for me to describe, but basically our main character's ex-boyfriend died, and he goes to the funeral, and while he's at the funeral he runs into that ex-boyfriend's current boyfriend, and so they grieve together because they have this communal, very unique grieving experience, because most people aren't grieving in the same way as they are, because they both believe the love of their life, so they are able to connect over that unique grieving style, I guess. Why contemporary Adam Silvera is supposed to make you sob. Love books that make me sad or cry and all that good stuff, so hoping this is great. And then the last book I want to read is Everything I've Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This is a book that has been on my radar for a long time, has been on my TBR for ages. I'm just so excited to get it. All I know about it is it's about a girl, well, it's about a family who live in northern Ohio in the late 70s, I believe. And it's about one of the daughters in the family goes missing and is dead, or presumed dead. I'm not really sure the specifics, but I do know that it revolves around how that affects the family. Really excited to read this. It's almost 8 o'clock on our first day of the Buzzword-A-Thon, and I have my first update to share with you. So I started and finished a whole book today. I started and finished History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. So the fact that I read a whole book today makes me so happy and is so exciting, but that's where my excitement ends. I didn't love this book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, maybe a 2.5. I think it was narratively well told. There were a couple of quotes I enjoyed. However, the main characters really annoyed me. I didn't like Griffin, especially. I couldn't stand him. I know everyone grieves in their own way and differently, so I don't want to say I didn't like the portrayal of grief or grieving, but I don't like how he grieved. I think everything was very unhealthy, and here's the thing about this book. I think the relationships aren't healthy. The way that these characters are grieving isn't healthy, but I think that's purposeful. I think they're not supposed to be portrayed as healthy, but I didn't enjoy my time while reading them. I couldn't get into this book. I just wasn't feeling it from the beginning, and that never really changed. I got like maybe 50% into this book and was like, when am I gonna start crying? Because I expected to be sobbing during this book, and I didn't cry once. I guess my heart is cold or something, because I just wasn't sad. I think it's a real problem when something is both predictable and came out of nowhere in a book. That's weird and not a good sign. That was something that happened in this book and I didn't like it. I don't know, I just couldn't get on board with this book. I couldn't gel with it. One thing I did really like about this book is the portrayal of OCD. I think it's very, like, it's subtly thrown into the book in that this isn't like a mental health book, but the portrayal of OCD in this book is amazingly done. I also enjoyed the discussion. There's a brief discussion on changing therapists. It very quickly happened, but at some point near the end of this book, our main character, he's been trying to go to a therapist and it just wasn't working for him. And he changed therapists, and that new therapist really worked for him. And I like the discussion that, like, sometimes therapy isn't just like a magic fix. One, it takes work and time, but also, like, the right person can really be very beneficial, and different people work with different people in different ways. So the idea that, like, he had to find his right therapist, even though this was the thing that was, like, only discussed for like 2 sentences, I really appreciated that. And that's probably why this book got a 2.5 instead of a 2. But I really overall just didn't enjoy this. Like I said, best part about this is that I was able to fly through it and I finished a whole book on the first day, so that's exciting. I haven't read my pages for the night for Because You Love to Hate Me or for Good Morning, Good Night, so I'm gonna take off my makeup and get ready for bed and then probably read those. It's the next morning and I have not done what I was supposed to do. So I didn't read my 30 pages for Good Morning, Good Night. I didn't read my 2 stories for Because You Love to Hate Me. So I'm technically officially already behind, but it's okay because today's my Friday. I have the next 2 days off work. So I think I can easily catch up and get on track. It's fine. But yeah, it is about 5:50 in the morning. I'm walking my dog and I need to get ready after this. So I think I'm gonna start Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng next. I have the audiobook checked out of my library, but I also have the physical copy, so I think I'm gonna bring the physical copy so I can read it at lunch and breaks at work, but start the audiobook for like my drive into work and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but that's all for my update. Say hi to Yogi. So it's day 3 and I'm officially behind on everything because I haven't read a single page of anything today, haven't listened to a single minute of anything today. Today we had a friend over for dinner, so I spent most of the day cleaning and doing things to prep for that. And then we cooked, had her over, watched a movie, all that kind of like hosting type stuff. And now it's 10:47 p.m. and I'm about to walk Yogi and probably gonna go to sleep soon. So I don't think I'm gonna get anything done today. I had a fun day, just not a productive day for Readathon. Okay, so it is the second to last day of the Buzzword-A-Thon, and I finished my second book, so not doing so hot. I finished Because You Love to Hate Me. So this was the booktuber book anthology about villains. I thought I was gonna love this, but I didn't necessarily love it. There were 2 stories in this collection that I did really love, both stories about women kind of subverting the expectations in their time, so clearly things I would like. One was Cindy Pond's and one was Samantha Shannon's. The rest were like anywhere between 2 to 4 stars. But yeah, those were the 2 standouts for me. And I think I averaged my ratings to be a 3.4, so we're gonna rate it a 3.5. And yeah, enjoyed it. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. So I still have to read the rest of Good Morning, Good Night. I have like 100 pages left, and like I said, it's like a tweet on a page basically, so I could probably finish that in like 20 minutes. And then I also have So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I think in listening time I have like 3 hours of the audiobook, so I might be able to finish that tomorrow. Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And I was at 50% of this, but I was slightly confused and didn't know where my confusion started and wanted to go in and highlight some things, and I own the book, so I decided to start rereading it. So I'm like 50 pages into the rereading part, and I'm tabbing it and underlining things and having the best time annotating, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it by the end of the readathon, just because I want to like absorb it in this different way than I expected, which is really fun, and I'm having the time of my life, but not really effective to reread half a book for readathon. I think the thing that I was confused about would have been answered if I kept reading on from where I was, but I really wanted to tab some things up, and so that's what I did. It's hours later. What else is new? I should be going to bed soon, but I'm actually gonna be reading Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I finished Good Morning, Good Night, so I have read 3 books for Buzzword-A-Thon, 2 of which I finished today, but it's okay. I have 2 more on my TBR, one of which I don't think I'll finish just because I decided to reread half of the book, which is my own fault. I could have finished the book if I didn't want to like tab it up, but I'm having such a good experience tabbing it up. This is just the way I'm going to have to read this book. It's fine, but I don't know. I don't know about the other one, the audiobook I'm listening to, which I keep forgetting the name of, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I will keep listening to it. Don't know if I'll finish it tomorrow or not, because I will definitely not have the opportunity to listen to an audiobook at work, and I am bringing this to work tomorrow, so I will be reading this at lunch. So 3 might be my number. But you know what? That's how it goes sometimes. Okay, here we are doing the thing. We're wrapping up the Buzzword-A-Thon. So in the end, I read 4 books, which I think just happens to be my magic number for readathons because that's how many I read during the Smut-a-thon readathon as well. So 4 seems to be a number, but anyways, we'll talk about what I read. First finished History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I finished this on the first day, and I didn't really like this. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. 4th day, 5th day, I don't know. Someday I finished Because You Love to Hate Me. This is an anthology book of short stories about villains. The short stories are written by prominent YA authors, and they were given prompts by some booktubers, bookturnet people, things like that. I think there's like a book blogger in here, but most of them were booktubers, and so for the most part, this was okay. I didn't love it, which is super disappointing. Basically, overall, all my star ratings averaged out to 3.4, so we're saying I'm rating this a 3.5. I gave it a 3 on Goodreads, but you know, you can't do half stars on Goodreads. We're giving it a 3.5. So the first thing I rated was actually the intro by Amory. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so strong. I thought it was so smart. I loved it. Next, we have The Blood of Emerov by Renee Audier. I gave this 2 stars. I thought it was a decent start to collection, but I wasn't really in love with the characters or stories. I have never meshed with Renee Audier's writing, which is sad, but true. I'm still gonna read her next book because it's about vampires and it sounds super interesting and totally into it, and I'm hoping it's the book that like gets me to understand the hype around her. But anyways, the next story was Jack by Amory. I gave this a 3.5 stars. I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed the ending. I thought the ramp up to the ending was so well done. Next we had Gwen and Art and Lance by Soman Chiani. I gave this 3.5 stars. I think it was really fun. I actually think this is one of the more memorable stories within the collection, but this was told in all texts, and that narrative really had its limitations and its setbacks, and it made some things just kind of hard to understand or stomach. Next up, we have Shirley and Jim by Susan Dennard. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I thought it was super forgettable. Then we have The Blessing of Little Wants by Sarah Enni. I gave this 3 stars. I also thought this was pretty forgettable. I have The Sea Witch by Marissa Meyer. I gave this 4 stars. I love this. I thought this was the first one in the collection that I really loved, so it kind of stood out to me, but it was quickly shadowed by the next one, Beautiful Venom by Cindy Pon, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so smart, so clever, so good. I thought the commentary on rape, it was so well, and like rape culture and how we treat women. So smart. And I really loved Ben's essay about this piece after. I thought it was one of the stronger pieces within the book by one of the booktubers. I really enjoyed that. Next we have Death Knell by Victoria Schwab. I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought it was entertaining all the way through, but it didn't really stick out to me as anything super special. Then we had Marigold by Samantha Shannon, and yes, I'm biased because Samantha Shannon is one of my all-time favorite authors, but I truly thought this was the best in the collection, strongest piece, smartest piece, most well-constructed, great like plot, great prompt provided by the booktuber. I think this one was Reagan. I didn't expect to like a Faye-ish story, and this was that, but it was so smart. Again, those undertones of like womanhood and like kind of flipping a narrative, so well done. I loved it. Then we have You, It's All About You by Adam Silvera. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars because I thought one of the things I think Adam Silvera does so well is he brings a very true and realistic voice to his characters. I thought this was an epitome of that. I don't know, that I really gelled with the story, the plot, the pacing, where it went, but the main character's voice was so strong. I was like, yes, this is a teenager and this is what they'd be feeling like, and like I totally buy this character. And so, especially coming out of a book where I really hated his characters, I think that was really surprising and refreshing for me. So maybe very impacted by my expectations, but I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Then we have Julian Breaks Every Rule by Andrew Smith. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I was kind of grossed out by part of this, but I thought it was very well executed. I thought it was very smart, especially because you don't really 100% know what's going on. So it feels kind of like a regular YA contemporary with a little spooky things thrown in until you get to the ending, and then you're like, whoa. We have Indigo and Shade by April Genevieve Tukolshe. I thought this was super predictable, 100% knew where it was going, but it was the good kind of predictable. So for me, predictable doesn't necessarily mean something's bad. It just means that I could see where it was going, and I think I could see where it's going because of narrative structure that is, you know, prominent in other literature or storytelling devices. The predictability did not take away from my enjoyment. I enjoyed this so much. I enjoyed being right, first of all. That's always something fun. But I also just kind of enjoyed what it was saying. Just because it was predictable didn't mean it wasn't enjoyable. But it wasn't like the best collection piece ever. I can't remember too much about it other than like the general plot thread. The characters really didn't stand out or anything like that. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. And then we had Sarah by Nicole Yoon, and I gave this 2 out of 5 stars, which may be generous. This was my least favorite of the collection easily. I thought it was a poor choice to end on, let's say that. And I think this is also solidified that I don't think Nicole Yoon is an author for me. I've just never gelled with any of her works. So anyways, that's my very long-winded explanation to how I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then the same night I finished Good Morning Good Night by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I tried to read this a little bit every day. I did read 100 pages on the last day, but I read them in bursts. So I read like 50 pages and I did some stuff, then I read like 25 pages and then I did some stuff, then I read 25 pages. So I still read this in spurts. I think that's the best way to consume this. I still think I personally read this a little too fast. I think this is best consumed over like 2 weeks. Probably would be the best. I was also a little disappointed in this. Not super, it was great and super inspiring, but there were only like a few poems that I really wanted to like grab onto, but I did enjoy my time reading this. I think it's super great and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then on the last day, which is a day I don't think I ended up vlogging at all. Actually, I did have a vlog clip, but the file got corrupted. That's what happened. So anyways, we'll talk about that day. Basically that day, all I did was finish You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson. And this was, I kind of expected going into this to not like it as much as I hoped. I had a right to be worried. I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5 stars and I just didn't love it. So basically, this is a story about internet culture, public shaming, and kind of cancel culture. It doesn't talk directly about cancel culture, but kind of the idea where you kind of, the internet goes after someone so hard after they've done something, something goes viral and blows up, and they kind of get shamed for it. We talk about a lot of real life examples of people whose careers kind of ended over, some may say trivial, some may say important, but bad things. John is a journalist. He goes around and talks to all of these people who have been publicly shamed and kind of humanizes them. It gives them this very true perspective, like what happened? Why did you say this? Why was this the way this happened? And he really is like trying to humanize these people. These stories bring a face to them, kind of get you to know who they are and what they're about and why they did what they did and what happened. And like in a lot of ways, he's dismissing their actions, and in a lot of cases, their actions were not good. So here's the thing. I think he has a point, and I think when you see something on the internet, you're only seeing a slice of it and you're only seeing a part of it, and it's hard to judge someone and say they deserve to be fired or they deserve this when you don't know the intentions behind something. But intentions don't matter. Like, perception is 99% of the law, and that's the way the world works, and you should be aware of that when you go on the internet. And I think if you say something troubling or problematic, you have a right to be called out, and I fully support calling someone out for something. Should they necessarily be fired for that thing? That's up to them and their employer, not the court of public opinion. And so that's kind of where the disconnect for me lies, is that I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, is that like I totally 100% support calling someone out on their bullshit. And this book definitely doesn't. And this book is like, no, everyone's human. Why would we do this? This is horrible. And it's like, yeah, maybe the court of public opinion on the internet goes too far, but like sometimes these people did bad things, and like they shouldn't necessarily get away with that, especially when they go viral. Like, it's not fair that some of these things went viral, but that's the way it is. They did. It doesn't matter if it's fair or not. Like, if only 2 people saw this tweet, yeah, maybe that was a problem and they shouldn't have said that. But if 200,000, 2 million people saw this tweet, I mean, that has a bigger grasp of affecting a larger audience. And if it's something troubling and problematic, then it should be dealt with accordingly on a larger scale, because it affected a larger scale of people. And that's just kind of how I feel about that. So this book and my kind of opinions and ideologies didn't align, and I don't think I really got anything out of it, which is upsetting and sad. I do think it was well constructed, well written. I think it was put together pretty well and nicely, and for that reason I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. Like, it wasn't like super troubling. I totally get this perspective. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not mine, and that's just kind of the way it is. We're just gonna leave it at that. Not my favorite, not my least favorite. It's fine. And then we'll talk about the last book, which I didn't finish, and this is Everything I Never Told You by Celestine. I was reading and listening to it, and at a certain point I was listening to it and could not figure out how I got to the point I didn't understand what was happening. I think there was like a flashback, and I didn't understand how that happened or where that happened. And I tried to figure out what was happening, but I couldn't really find the source of my confusion. And there were quite a few things, especially towards the beginning of the book, that I wanted to tab up and underline and highlight and think about in a different context. So what I decided to do, after I had read literally 50% of this book, is to start it over, reading it purely by hand in a physical copy, underline things, tab things, highlight things, annotate things. And so that's what I did. And now we're 90 pages into the reread about, and yeah. So I mean, like, I say reread, but I'm not rereading the book, but I'm rereading like the first 140 pages that I read. So had I decided to just say, hey, F it, I'll figure out what's happening, I would have finished this book, hands down, 100%, because I would have probably had more opportunity to listen to this as an audiobook. Hands down would have finished this easily. But that would have hindered my reading experience, and I think I would have given this a much lower rating. And as you can see, I didn't necessarily give the other books the highest of ratings. So since this is, for me, the most likely for me to love, and I think this honestly could be a 5-star book or at least a 4-star book, I really want to take my time with it and enjoy it and consume it in the way I need to consume it to get the most out of the story. And for me, this just had to be read physically and taken slow and digested, and that's fine. That's great. I love books like that. It just maybe wasn't the greatest choice for a readathon. I had no idea that was going to be the case. I'm glad that I was able to say, hey, no, stop. Let's back up, take it slower, and try again. And I still read 4 books this week, and I gave them a 2, a 2, a 3.5, and a 4. So all range of ratings, but not great ones. But it's okay, because I read 4 books, and that's kind of fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed the Buzzword-A-Thon. If you participated, if you did, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you read, how many books you read, what you thought of them, all that fun stuff. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!